3-4 classes. Once 3-4 classes are over, like your kind of like once your final batch is settled down, I'll share you the finalized notes. From these notes, I have added some more extra additional concepts also for this particular batch, keeping in mind the way the interviews are going in the current market. So it need little bit depth. So I'll add extra concepts also, like a spice, agile, this kind of things. Is that fine for everyone? Is that fine? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. First, let me start with the index of our entire syllabus. So, the very first class, we were going to learn about the software development life cycle. If you want, you can take the running notes kind of thing for your own confidence. That's also fine. You will remember the concepts very good. So, the first concept we are going to learn is software development life cycle. SDLC model, we call it in short. So, this software development life cycle is something which is followed by the organizations, or which is followed by the IT companies or any software companies to complete one project. Suppose you received one project, you have to complete that project, all the activities in that project, and then you have to submit the project to the client. So what are all the different things that goes in between these two stages, receiving the project, submitting the project? If you consider them as two different phases, what are all the different steps you do, what are all the different process you will follow in between these two steps, right after receiving the project till the submission of the project? What are all the different activities you do, what are different development activities, different testing activities, what are all the things you do, defines your software development life cycle. What is meant by a life cycle? Life cycle is from birth to death. Suppose if you take a human life cycle, from birth to death, what are all the different phases you have? You have childhood, you have adulthood, you have mid ages. So these teenage, these kind of things you have. Similarly, for the software also, based upon the maturity of the software, based on the development state of a software, we will have different phases. So we have many types of n number of types of software development life cycles in the software market. Out of those many number of software development life cycle, which model we are choosing for our automotive things? Mostly, like 80% of the companies will follow a software development life cycle called as VNV model, which is verification and validation model, or an agile model. 80 to 90% of the companies will select either of these methods, because these type of software development, these two software development life cycles are most suitable for the automotive industry. For the projects in the automotive industry, these two software development life cycles serves the purpose in a better way when compared to the other SDLC models. So in the first class, we will learn about what is this VNV model, what are the different phases we have in this VNV model, like where the development happens, in what state the testing happens, how you will interact with the clients, in which phase of testing your single component will be tested, when in which phase of testing your whole system will be tested. All these things in a, what are the advantages of this model, disadvantages of this model. So all these things will be discussed in this VNV model, which is verification and validation model. So, and then followed with agile model. So you will know about this agile process, like how you will plan your sprints, how you do your PI planning, and what are all the different scrum events, scrum activities. All these things you will able to learn with this concepts. And then we move on to protocols topic. The second topic which we are going to learn is protocol, CAN protocol and LIN protocol, out of which CAN is very 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 important in interview point of time. If you take all the theoretical concepts which we are going to learn in this particular course, if you keep aside the practical concepts, if you take alone the theoretical process, CAN protocol is one damn important topic you must learn in order to crack your interview. So about this protocol, we will learn in very detailed manner what is this CAN protocol, where it is used, how it works in the background, what are all, in very deep technical way we are going to learn this CAN protocol, and what are the different subtopics we have in the CAN protocol, followed by LIN protocol. LIN protocol is very short one, like where you will just get some insights into this LIN protocol. And then comes your project. So you will start with you will start with project number 1. So project number 1, first the project number 1 is infotainment testing project. You will get to know what is infotainment and all these things. If already there are some people who knows it, it is well and good, or otherwise people who doesn't know it, you will get to know what is infotainment and all these things. First, project number 1 will be infotainment testing. So in this project, I'll explain you how, I'll give you the requirements. Consider I am your client now. I am giving you the requirements. I'll tell you how my infotainment system should work and how it should look like. You people have to do testing for that. Consider the developers have developed the software. So as a part of this project, you will get to know how these features of infotainment works. What are all the specifications of the project? Second step is how to write test cases. How to write a test case. So suppose I have given you a requirement. My Bluetooth should be connected. Can be paid with 7 mobiles at a time. My car's Bluetooth, infotainment Bluetooth can be paid with 7 mobiles at a time, but only ultimate connection will be only 1. Let's take this way. So this is my one single line of requirement. So first you have to analyze the requirement, and then you have to write your test cases. For writing the test cases, there is some process and there are some techniques behind writing this. You cannot just simply go and write a test case. There are some rules and regulations how you should write a test case, and then what are all the different techniques you have to use in your test case. So I'll teach you all those techniques, all those do's and don'ts, so that you yourself will write a test case for a real-time project. Okay. So that is second step. And third step will be, and the next thing you will be learning about is tool, Kanoe tool. I'll make you install the Kanoe tool, and then what I'll give, already you will be right, you have written some test cases in the previous class, right? You will take those requirements and you will execute them in the Kanoe tool. And also, as a part of this project, I will explain you how your bench setup look like. So for the people who doesn't know what is bench setup, it is a hardware representation of how your system works. I'll explain you in detail when the topic comes. So how your bench setup look like. So I'll show you the block diagram of how your infotainment system bench setup look like. So it is a kind of A to Z thing. So first you will learn about the project requirements, then you will learn about the test case writing, and then you will learn about the bench setup, and then you will learn about the tool where you will execute all this test cases what you have written. That's perfectly like kind of a 360-degree thing in the project. Okay, next will come. Next is like project number 2. Project number 2, you can select between either ADAS project or your tire pressure monitoring system project. So I'll explain you what is these 2 projects in short, like what this project does and what that project is. It is up to you which project you will choose. That project I will explain. So same process will repeat for the project 2 as well. I'll give you some requirements. You will write test cases for that. You will execute them in the Kanoe tool, and then you will do the actual testing. So here your project ends. Next, this is till now, this is all completely a manual process. Now comes the automation. In the automation, you will learn a language of CAPL scripting. This language we call it as CAPL scripting. So from the basics, I don't say we learn 110% of the CAPL here, but we will learn to what extent it is needed. I'll teach you from the very scratch, like what are the variables, what are all the things, what are the basic syntaxes, how to, for a very simple requirement, how to write CAPL program, and then what if I give you a complex requirement, how to frame your program, what are all the different concepts in the, suppose if you take Java, you have oops concept, you have variables, you have so many things, loops, all these things. So like that, in CAPL also, what are all the concepts that we have, we will be learning it in the what CAPL program. So I'll give you some real-time requirements. You have to write CAPL scripting. I'll give you assignments. You have to write a CAPL scripting for all those things, and you have to execute them. You have to compile them in the Kenoi CAPL browser. So this gives you the real-time exposure on how to write CAPL scripts when you are given an actual requirements. And then comes your diagnostics. There is a concept called diagnostics, which is very much important in the automotive testing. I'll not go very detailed into this, like what is diagnostics and all. We will talk about this when this concept comes in a very detailed manner. What is this diagnostics? Why it is used for? This is altogether a separate topic, which is not connected to anything of the previous. So this we will learn about this. What are the different service IDs we have, and all these things, negative responses, uh, all these things. And then we come to the bug. We'll learn about the defect life cycle. Defect life cycle is nothing but, okay, you have tested some feature, you have written the test cases, you have tested some feature, no matter if it is manual or automation, whatever it is. So you found something is not working according to the requirement. Developer has developed some code, but that is not working according to the expectation by the client. So now this is considered as a defect. So once you encounter a defect, what is your next step? What you should do with the defect? You just can't see. You just tested. You see the defect, and you just can't ignore like that. You just can't leave it like that. You have to do something with the defect. You have to report it to someone, or you have to solve whatever. What is the process after that? What is the cycle we follow? What are the different stages of defect? Which tool you will use for this defect tracking? So we will learn about a tool called Zira. Okay, we will learn about a tool called Zira. So in Zira, how you will log a defect, how it is followed up, how you will report it to the concerned person. So all these things we will be talking about. And then we will talk about the ASPICE process. I already covered ASPICE. No, we will talk about the ASPICE process. In the ASPICE process, we will learn about different stages of software and testing. It is very important in the current market. Previously, this ASPICE process was not given very much importance, but now, considering the quality of the software, to improve that efficiency of the software, companies are mostly adapting to this ASPICE process. So here you will know like different SWE levels, SIS levels. I'll explain you what are SWE levels and SIS levels. So in which stage, what kind of testing, what kind of approvals is done, what kind of testings are done, what kind of development activities is done. So whether your project is conformed to the ASPICE levels. So it is I mean, it is said that if your project is following a pakka ASPICE level, the quality of the software will be very high. The confidence level of the software will be very high. So we will know about this what ASPICE process in a very detailed manner. So yes, and then we will learn some miscellaneous tool, how to where to store the requirements, how to do your documentation. Because we all, when you attend an interview, all the interviewers will ask, in your previous project, how did you store your results? Where did you document your results? Where did you document your test cases? So all these things we will learn when the concerned topic comes. I'll also teach you on how to make resumes, how to, I'll give you some set of automotive interview based questions, how to answer those questions. We will take up mock interviews. So all these things follows after your course is done. So this is about in detail about the concepts which we are going to learn in this 1 month of duration or 40 days of duration, whatever it is. And I'll also give you the detailed plan on what topic will be built in how many hours, on which day, kind of blueprint I'll give you this weekend mostly. Tomorrow I can't give. Maybe by Saturday or Sunday I'll give you the detailed class plan as well. So that suppose if you know, like tomorrow, okay, this is the concept which trainer is going to tell, you can just do a very preliminary basic research so that you'll feel confident when the topic is taught. Till now everyone are clear? Everyone is clear? Or you, if you have any doubts regarding the things which I've spoken till now, please feel free to ask. Everyone is clear?
Yes, understood.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, now let us go to the next concept. We will talk about in different parts in the car, different functionalities in the car. Okay, let me share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's
Yes.
visible.
Okay, okay, let's take this image. Okay, okay, when you see a vehicle or when you see a car, how it looks like? It looks like one nicely designed, one fine polished structure. Am I right? When you see a car from a user perspective, it is like one finely designed, structured, and like what polished structure car. But what happens inside? What goes inside of that fine polished structure is lots of connections between one part to the other part. See, if you see this image, there are so many cables. There's so many electric cables that are connecting uh, from one part to the other part, right? But okay, first answer me this basic question: why you need a connection between one part to the other part in a vehicle? Why you need, okay, if you see this image, from front to back or like from left to right, overall from in the overall body of the car, so many parts are connected to each other. Why do you think we need a connection between one part to the other part in a vehicle? Any answers? See, even if it is wrong, please try to answer something that will make the class more interactive and like efficient as well.
For communications, data transmissions from one part to another, like that.
Excellent. For communication, basically, the or for data transmission, exactly the point behind the connection is that suppose you apply a brake, or else let's take the modern example. if you apply the reverse gear, immediately your camera is being turned on, right? How does that happen? How do your camera know that your gear is being applied, your reverse gear is being applied? So this happens, Sumitra, yeah, tell me.
Through messages that were dumped in that firmers, it will send data and it will be receiving like that. They will communicate, no? Like that, it will.
Exactly. Okay, if I wanted to say it in very simpler terms, very layman terms, your camera and your gear are connected. Only when they are connected, when the reverse gear is applied, through that connection, the data will be sent to the camera. Okay, the reverse gear is applied, so the camera has to turn on. Without this connection being established, there is no point in having different ECUs, different parts. If your camera doesn't turn on when your reverse gear is engaged, what is the point of having a camera, right? But that communication is very, very important between two different parts in order to have the proper output. So if if the camera wants to know if the reverse gear is applied or not, it has to have some connection with the reverse gear or gearbox, whatever it is. If that connection itself is not there, camera will not know what is happening with the gearbox. So the different parts in the car will be connected for a communication purposes, for data transmission purposes. So now comes the concept of ECU. What is meant by an ECU?
Electronic
Sorry?
electronic controller unit.
Excellent. Electronic controller unit.
Yeah.
So ECU is nothing but I can say it is like a brain of a vehicle. How CPU is a brain of your computer, for vehicle, ECU is a brain. Okay, electronic control unit. This particular ECU will control a specified set of operations. Okay, suppose there are some set of operations, for example, entertainment features or information related features. So these specific set of information will be controlled by one particular ECU. So it is a kind of a small embedded systems which will take inputs from the sensors, radars, whatever it is. It will process the data using the software which we develop, and then it sends the outputs to the driver or sends outputs to the respective parts. Right? It will take this. What is the purpose of this ECU is, it is a kind of a very small computer or a small embedded system which will take input from the sensors, which will process data. Suppose we will develop some software for the ECU. So whenever it takes that inputs, we will write a code on how to process that inputs, and it will send an output to the respective unit. So now we will talk about different types of ECUs in the car. First ECU we talk about is infotainment system. What is meant by an infotainment system? Do anyone know about this infotainment system? Did anyone heard about this infotainment system?
Yeah, I heard that infotainment. Yeah.
Can you tell me in very simpler terms also? It's fine. What is infotainment system?
In simple terms, it is nothing but IVA, in-vehicle infotainment domain. With that, we can display like all modules, like audio, media, or anything.
Okay. Fine. Okay, let me tell you in detail. The word infotainment is a combination of two words: information plus entertainment, combined together to give an infotainment. Right? Information plus entertainment. As the name suggests, this specific ECU will deal with the features of information and entertainment. Okay, now the task is on you. Can someone list me what are all the entertainment and information related features in our car or in any vehicle? Let's take.
Bluetooth,
Excellent. Bluetooth.
call setting options,
Call setting
calls
options.
receiving and
Yes, exactly.
music playing.
Music. Excellent.
Then we can view the we can access the camera to see the front and back. That is
That is not purely infotainment. That is connected to the other ECUs as well, but still, yes.
Android systems.
Sorry?
Android systems.
Android systems, very Android Auto.
Maps.
Maps, excellent. That comes under information. Yes.
Media player, radio systems.
Excellent. Media player. So all these features in the vehicle which we use for entertainment, you know where the infotainment ECU is located in the car, right? It is right in between the front driver seat and the co-passenger seat in the front, like the music system where we see the music system. That we call it as an entertainment with a UI system, with a user interface, where we will have touch screen display, where the user can interact with the system directly. We will have navigation, we will have music system, we will have Bluetooth, we will have Android Auto, CarPlay, FM, calls options. All these features will be dealt by an ECU called as a infotainment ECU. Clear? Clear everyone?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Next is let's take engine control module. Engine control module, we call it as ECM, engine control module. So what are the functions of this engine control module is, give me a second, I'll plug in my charger for the laptop. Engine control module is something which will handle the operations like which will monitors the engine temperature when your engine is continuously on for the last 12 hours, 13 hours, something kind of like, it will monitor the engine temperature and it will give the input to the user like your engine is overheated or something kind of that, and it will controls the fuel injection like your lubricants, your engine oil, these kind of things. It will regulate this air fuel ratio, it will controls that ignition timings, all these things like fuel injectors, spark plugs. The guys might have known it more like what are the fuel injectors, what are spark plugs and all these things. So this ECU directly impacts the mileage kind of things, what are the emissions out of our vehicle, what is the performance of the engine, all these kinds of things we will what this ECM ECU will control it. What can be the input for this? From where all this information will come to the ECM ECU? It uses different sensors like engine temperature sensor. When you put this temperature sensor in the engine, it will give you the temperature values of the engine. So based on those sensor values, the ECU will process according to the software, and then it will give you the ECU temperature value to the driver or the owner, whatever it is. Okay. And then oxygen sensor for the fuel ratio, air fuel ratio. So all these kinds of sensors will give input to this engine control module, and this ECU will process all the information and will give data to the user. And then next ECU is TCU, transmission control unit. Transmission control unit. So why this transmission control? What is the purpose of this transmission control unit ECU is? Suppose now we have mostly automatic cars. It will, in this automatic cars, you will not have, you need not change the gears manually. Automatically, according to the speeds that the gears will be manipulated. So this gear shifting is controlled by this transmission control unit. It will ensure smooth gear transitions so that it will optimize the fuel efficiency. So engine ECU and this engine control module and this transmission control unit will work together in order to optimize the efficiency of the engine, optimize the efficiency of the fuel. So this transmission control unit is majorly for this purpose: gate transitions, optimizing the fuel efficiency, and all these kinds of things. Next, brake control module, ABS. Did anyone heard about this ABS, anti-lock braking system? These days all cars is having this ABS, anti-lock braking system. So this anti-lock braking system is nothing but this particular ECU will prevent wheel locking during braking. When you are braking, or when you are applying brake, or when you are releasing brake, it will prevent that wheel locking. It will maintain that vehicle control. So the input will come from wheel speed sensors, so that it will improve the safety during sudden braking. Whenever you apply brake suddenly, so the wheel has to stop. The body of the car has to stop suddenly. So this wheel locking will be prevented during the braking using this ABS system, anti-lock braking system. And then the very important thing is body control module. I heard from someone in the introduction that someone has worked in this body control module. Can someone explain what is meant by this body control module, if you know?
So it's electronic control unit for vehicle. So that manages control various body related functions like lightning and power windows and wiper, horn. So right
Yes.
now, so many cars are keyless entries like
Hmm.
central locking. So
Hmm.
these are under like
Excellent.
this year.
Exactly. So this body control module will control non-engine features. Suppose if you take power windows, as the name suggests, it will control the body parts of your, the physical body parts of your vehicle. Suppose if you take power windows, this will be controlled by BCM. Central locking system. Whenever you close all the doors, when you want it, all your central locks, child locks will be applied. So this functionality is controlled by BCM. So this ECU will handle this locking functionality. Lighting, you have the internal lights, external lights, all this lighting related things also will be what will be controlled by this BCM. Suppose if you take wipers, right, rain sensors, wipers. This rain sensors will provide the input to the wipers, and this wiper automatic on, automatic off of wipers will be controlled by this BCM. Okay. So yes, this is the these are the core functionalities of the BCM. It will kind of comfort convenience controller. This ECU will take off the comfort of the or convenience of the user or a driver or a passenger, whatever it is. Next main ECU which we are going to talk about is ADAS ECU. ADAS ECU. Do anyone know what is this ADAS or full form of this ADAS? ADAS, the full form of ADAS is Advanced Driver Assistance System. Advanced Driver Assistance System. So what is this Advanced Driver Assistance System is, it will, okay, this ADAS ECU is used in a smart kind of cars, in the modern cars, let's take. It is the main purpose of this ECU is to improve the efficiency and convenience of the driver. Suppose if we take this feature of adaptive cruise control or cruise control. What is meant by cruise control? Do anyone have some idea, or did anyone heard this term cruise control? Cruise control is nothing but an
Yes.
automatic speed control. So if you're going on a highway and you're touching the speed around 100, let's take 1 second, give me 1 second. So you're touching a speed of 100 there are some other vehicles which are going on in the same road, but when there is a vehicle in front of you, or when there is a vehicle beside of you, your speed has to reduce, right? Normally this is done manually, but when you have an adaptive cruise control based on the position of your front and side cars, automatically the speed will control. Suppose you have to slow down your car, you need not do it manually by applying clutch or by applying brake or whatever it is. If your adaptive cruise control system is there in your car, automatically your speed levels will be adjusted according to the surrounding vehicles, right? You understood this feature? You understood? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Then the other feature of this ADAS, if you take it, is lane keeping assist. Lane keeping assist means, suppose you are driving on a 6-way highway. You are traveling in lane 1. You wanted to switch to lane 2. Mandatorily, you cannot unknowingly switch from lane 1 to lane 2, because there will be vehicles coming from behind in lane 2 as well. Either you have to put an indicator some distance before, and then you have to switch to lane 2. But when you are unknowingly, without putting an indicator, when you are unknowingly crossing from lane 1 to lane 2, this lane keeping assist feature will help you in maintaining that lane maintenance. So you cannot switch from lane 1 to lane 2 all of a sudden without any indicators or without any kind of indications. So this lane keeping assist feature will help you in putting your vehicle straight into the certified lane. And there is one more feature called as automatic emergency braking. Suppose you're on a full speed and suddenly a vehicle came across you or in front of you, all of a sudden. So when you have this sensor for this automatic emergency braking, when you have the sensor based upon the distance of your opposite vehicle, and emergency braking automatically will be applied. You will not have time to realize, react, and then apply brake sometimes. Am I true? There will be some time like where all of a sudden vehicle comes, you will not have even that 1 minute of time to realize that the vehicle is coming and apply a brake. Sometimes in panic, sometimes some people will press clutch or accelerator in place of brake. So to avoid these kind of scenarios, this automatic emergency braking feature comes handy. So it will this system itself, this ADAS ECU itself will apply brake automatically in kind of any kind of emergency situations. Right? So the inputs where this all these features, there is something called a sleep monitoring system. What is meant by the sleep monitoring system? When a driver closes his eyes for more than 3 seconds, so the sleep alarm will ring in the car. Sleep alarm will be activated in the car, so that it will alert the driver that he is in the sleepy mode or whatever it is. So how this is known to the system? So it will use the input from the camera as well as the sensors, and there is something called as traffic sign recognition. So if your traffic sign is red but you're still moving your car in the same direction, it will alert you. It will show you a notification, or it will alert you that you are crossing a red signal. So all these things, and if you are and there is some more advanced features also. What if you are parking in a no parking area, or if you are going in a wrong way, like one way, wrong way, or whatever it is, based on the traffic booth signs. At least in India, we will not have that many signs, but when you come to the foreign countries like Europe or US, there will be pakka signs like traffic signs, like pedestrians or whatever it is, wrong way, U-turn, these kind of things. It will detect that signs and it will alert the driver accordingly. Right? So all these systems will have input from cameras, sensors, radars, whatever it is, and then it will process the information and then it will give the output accordingly. So yes, we have one more unit called as climate control ECU. This we also call it as HVAC ECU. HVAC ECU in the sense heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So this will control the features like AC, heater. At least in India, we will not have heaters in the car, but all the cold countries, all the polar countries will have the heaters in the car. So that even in India, we have in some models, but not very fully 100% extensively. We have heaters in the car, and it will maintain the cabin temperature based upon the surroundings or the environment of heat and cold. It will maintain the inside car temperatures by increasing or decreasing the AC and heating temperatures. It will maintain the passenger comfort. Okay. And then these are some of, and we have this instrument cluster. Do anyone know what is this instrument cluster? Everyone might have seen it. This we call it as dashboard ECU also sometimes. So this is a kind of a display panel. This instrument cluster is a kind of a display panel which is situated behind your steering wheel. If you observe just behind your steering, there will be some kind of display where your speed levels, fuel levels, all these things will be displayed, right? So this we call it as an instrument cluster. So this will display your speed, this will display your fuel level, this will display your engine RPM, this will display your warning lights. Suppose your vehicle is in moving condition and one of your 4 doors is open, it is not closed properly, where you will get an indication. So you will get an indication in the cluster itself. So you will be showing that door is open symbol in the cluster. The other things which you can see, fuel level, you can see engine temperature. As we discussed, that ECM will control the engine temperature. Whenever it is ECM knows that the engine is in high temperature or the over temperature, it will send the data to the cluster. So cluster will display. cluster, the main functioning of the cluster is displaying the warning signs or warning symbols to the driver. So it will process the data and it will show the respective signs. It will show you the total distance using the odometer readings. Odometer will know how much distance you have traveled. So that odometer readings it will take and it will be transmitted to the cluster, and cluster will display the number of number of kilometers that have been oil warning or airbag warning, whatever it is, engine light or anything. So all the displays, which the information which are processed by the other ECUs, if they need to be displayed to the driver, it will be displayed in the instrument cluster units. There are different types of clusters. Analog cluster, which is like normal old models of cluster, but these days you have fully digital cluster where it is fully LCD display, fully software driven. So these are the different types of ECU. I mean, typically a car will consist of 30 to 100 ECUs based upon the features which they were introducing. So these are some of the major ECUs which we will be using or which will be working more on. Everyone understood what I am telling, or you have any doubts regarding this? Everyone understood?
Yes, I am okay.
Yeah, thank you. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask. Okay, I think everyone is okay. Okay, one more request from my end. If any question is asked or if any response is asked, please try to respond. Otherwise, I'll not know whether you are following or whether you are stuck somewhere or nothing. If you don't know it, at least answer it. I don't know. So that I'll get some confirmation whether I have to proceed further or I should wait for your response. So without you people responding, the class will be very non-interactive. It will be always a one-side class. I'll be teaching, you will be listening. That is not good for you. That is not good for me as well. I'll not get that motivation to teach you good things and to go in depth. You will not get that motivation that I have to ask this question, I have to learn this and all this. So if two-way communication is there, the class will be interesting, class will be more interactive. Okay. Okay, guys, I think we have covered these two things for today's class. Maybe if you have any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, we will wrap the session for today.
Any notes regarding this topic, ma'am? Otherwise, any PPT like that presentations?
PPT I don't have. I'll share you the rough notes for now. Maybe after 2 to 3 days, I'll share you the the finalized copy of the notes as well.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to take the class on Saturday and Sundays also.
Sunday,
Sundays.
based on availability, I'll take but Saturdays I'll take.
Yeah, okay.
Sunday, if I'm available, I'll take it 100%. 1 or 2 Sundays, I might miss.
Okay.
If there is any some work, but normally I'll take.
Okay. Okay, guys. Actually, the link will be valid. The same link will take the sessions from tomorrow onwards. You can use the same link for the whole entire training period.
So
Okay,
this
guys.
is a fixed time, right? For every,
Yeah.
every day?
Yes, so they like 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. IST.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's comfortable, right, for everyone, the timings and all?
Yes, it's okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, guys, then fine. We will take a leave for today. We'll meet tomorrow in tomorrow's class. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
share the recordings also, not from today, from day after tomorrow. I'll share the sessions in the cloud and I'll give the access also for the recorded sessions for everyone.
Okay.
Okay, okay, right. Thank you, guys. Good night
Thank you.
and good morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Okay, I'm starting. Wrap it up.